안녕하세요.
The following week unfurled in silence. Though she continued her duties, Yoon Hae-won felt the change instantly. The once thriving rhythm of lunchtime reviews and shared glances across the conference table had stopped. She hadn't been called back to the 37th floor since Madam Choi's interruption. Her ID badge no longer worked for access. And though she told herself it was for the best, the ache in her chest whispered otherwise. Downstairs, in the general administration office, she returned to routine, filing, scheduling, and pouring coffee for people who didn't know her name. But her mind remained in the glass corridors above, where she had once mattered. Meanwhile, Kong Joon-ho stood at the apex of his empire, but the view from the top had changed. He caught himself looking toward the assistant's desk each morning, only to find it empty. His calls went unanswered. She'd removed herself respectfully, and he hated how rational it was. It made him furious. He called for Min Jun, his cousin and CFO.
I want her transferred back to my floor.
Min Jun narrowed his eyes. Are you sure that's wise? I don't recall asking for your opinion. You don't need to. The board is already gossiping. There's talk of favoritism. Let them talk.
Min Jun sighed.
She's not like the others, Joon-ho. She's too honest, too decent. This world will chew her up. Then maybe this world needs to change, Joon-ho said quietly. But the conversation sparked doubt. That evening, he found himself alone again in his penthouse. The city outside blinked with false warmth. And for once, his thoughts weren't consumed by numbers or deals. Only her. Only the silence she left behind. Down in her small studio apartment, Hae-won stared at a bowl of cold ramen. Her roommate had moved out last month. She hadn't turned on the TV in days. Every notification on her phone made her heart skip, only to disappoint. Until it lit up with a message. From Kong Joon-ho. Meet me. Saturday. Namsan Tower. Noon. No explanation.
No signature.
Just his presence, heavy even through pixels. Her fingers hovered over the screen. She didn't reply. But she started thinking about what she'd wear. And for the first time in days, she smiled. Namsan Tower stood tall against the pale blue sky, its silhouette etched into the Seoul skyline like a sentinel of forgotten dreams. Cherry blossoms had begun to bloom, their petals swirling in the wind like memories refusing to settle. Yoon Hae-won stood at the base of the cable car station, a soft beige coat wrapped around her, fingers tucked into its sleeves. Her heart raced, not from the climb, but from the knowledge that Kong Joon-ho was waiting somewhere above. She hadn't replied to his message. She hadn't told anyone she was coming, but here she was. The ascent was quiet. Only the creak of the cable and the rhythmic sway of the cabin filled the space around her. With every meter, her doubts grew heavier, but so did her hope. At the top, he was waiting. Dressed in a dark charcoal coat, hands in his pockets, Joon-ho stood with his back to the viewing platform, facing the city below. The moment he turned, their eyes met. For a heartbeat, time paused. You came, he said. I didn't plan to, she replied. He smiled faintly. I didn't plan to send the message either. They stood in silence, letting the wind speak between them. I shouldn't be here, she said eventually. Your mother, your company. I don't care, he interrupted. I've spent years living according to expectations. I've chased numbers, kept shareholders happy, protected the brand. But in the process, I forgot to protect the one thing that mattered the most. She looked at him, uncertain. Which is? You. The word hung in the air like fragile glass. She didn't move. I know this won't be easy, he continued. There will be gossip. My board may push back. My mother certainly will. But I want to fight for something real, Hae-won. Not just profits. Not just appearances.
Juvema de me Life by on corporate wise.
She shook her head slowly. You barely know me. I know enough, he said. I know your honesty. Your strength. The way you see through people's masks.
You made me feel human again.
Her eyes shimmered.
What if we don't make it?
Then we don't, he said softly. But I'd rather try and fail than regret never having tried. A gust of wind scattered petals between them. She stepped forward and took his hand. They didn't kiss. They didn't speak. But fingers intertwined beneath a cherry blossom sky said everything that words couldn't. Down below, soul pulsed with life. But up here, only two hearts beat in unison, one promise made beneath petals and wind. And neither of them looked back. 3 months later, the Kong Corporation hosted its annual shareholders gala at the Grand Seoul Ballroom. Every major name in the business world was present, cameras flashing at each arrival. But as the clock neared 8, all attention turned toward the couple entering through the grand archway. Kong Joon-ho, in a crisp black tuxedo, held out his arm for Yoon Hae-won, who wore a satin ivory gown with understated elegance. Her presence at his side wasn't just symbolic, it was revolutionary. She was no longer the nameless assistant from the lower floors. She was the woman he had chosen to stand beside him, regardless of consequence. Gasps whispered through the crowd, but Joon-ho never wavered. He held his chin high, her hand steady in his. When they reached the center of the hall, he paused, then turned to the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice clear and unwavering, "I know tradition and expectation govern much of our world. But today, I break from both. I introduce not only my partner in life, but my equal in every way." Hae-won's breath caught as the crowd murmured, uncertain. Some may say this choice defies logic. That love has no place in boardrooms. But if a company can't stand on truth and integrity, it has no future worth fighting for. Applause began tentatively, then grew. Later that night, on the rooftop of the venue beneath strands of golden lights, Hae-won looked out over the cityscape. Joon-ho joined her, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. He passed her a glass. "Not for a second." "Your mother hasn't spoken to me." "She will. She's already started asking about your favorite flowers." Hae-won chuckled, sipping the bubbly gold. "What now?" He reached into his pocket, then knelt slowly, the world softening around them. From a black velvet box, a delicate ring caught the moonlight. "Hae-won," he said, voice trembling for the first time she could remember, "you were the one truth in a world full of half-truths. I want to build something with you that even the coldest boardroom can't define. Will you marry me?" Her eyes welled with tears, hands shaking. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. 1 year later, they stood in a garden beneath silk canopies and white lanterns. Friends, family, even a tearful Madame Choi, watched as Hae-won walked toward Joon-ho in a hanbok stitched with blossoms. Petals danced on the wind again, just like they had at Namsen Tower. He took her hand once more. And this time, he kissed her. As the ceremony ended and guests clapped, someone shouted, "What will the company do without the cold-hearted CEO?" Joon-ho laughed, eyes still on Hae-won. "He's retired," he said. "This one's building a family now." And for the first time, his empire wasn't made of glass and steel, but of laughter, warmth, and a love that had conquered every barrier in its path.
Seasons come and go, oh, our love will always grow. Through the storms and gentle rain, we'll bloom and start